Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by. Welcome to the Using Online Career Events to Engage and Recruit Top Financial Advisors. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode. Should you wish to ask a question during the presentation, please use the chat feature located in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. If you need to reach an operator at any time, please press *0. As a reminder, this conference is being recorded Wednesday, June 17, 2015. I would now like to turn the conference over to Mr. David Testerman, Managing Partner for Broker Hunter. Please go ahead, sir.
Oh, very good. Thank you so much. It's so much nicer when you introduce me than I do myself, so appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. Thanks so much for your time today. We are real excited to have you here. I know it's we're in the middle of the summer here as far as the recruiting goes, but this is a great time to take some time out and take a look at kind of how your recruiting is going for the year and take a look at some fresh ideas. I'm fortunate enough today to have joining me Ashley Hoffman, who's been a wonderful partner of ours with a company called Brazen Careerist. And she'll be speaking to you in a moment about the technology platform that we utilize for some of the online events we do. And it's certainly an exciting technology, and the candidates love it. So that's ultimately who we're all after anyway. So I think the results from the events that Brazen Careerist pulls off speak for themselves. But real quick before we jump right into the presentation, I want to ask you all in attendance here today, what are your headcount goals for 2015? And that's going to be your total. And I'm going to assume most of you on the call today are looking for financial advisors and or insurance salespeople. Financial services sales seems to be the predominant theme. And what I'll be talking about here today is going to be a little bit financial advisor centric, but the recruiting principles here work fabulous for any hard to source position within financial services. It just so happens to be that financial advisor and wealth management are probably the most challenging. So I'm going to go ahead and let everybody answer here for another few minutes, and this looks like we've got a pretty good sampling here, kind of across the board, which is great. So I'm going to go ahead and show you all the results. And we have quite a few people on the call today. Looks like about a third of you here are looking from 0 to 10. New financial advisors or candidates or employees. A few of you here are 11 to 50, and then well over a third are at an enterprise level looking for more than 100. So this is perfect. But really, depending upon your hiring or headcount goals, these core principles here will be helpful to you. The events I'm going to be talking about today were ones we have done in the past. The metrics I'm sharing are national events, but these same principles, and I can touch on it a little bit in the Q&A, can actually be applied to local and regional recruiting as well. We have to go about it a little bit differently, but certainly something I'll give you all some ideas on as well. So let's jump to the next slide. Thank you all very much for answering that question. All right, here's the other question. Do you currently use online events as part of your recruiting strategy? And you can answer yes if you've ever used them before in the past, or you're currently utilizing them as part of the strategy. So this is great. Well, for those of you that have answered no, this is going to be exciting because we're going to show you some metrics here that will probably astound you, we hope. So anyhow, okay, great. We'll keep working here. We'll get a few more seconds here. I think everybody's chiming in here. And thank you very much for your answers. And I'm going to go ahead and skip to the results here. And roughly 2/3 of you have never used online events. So this is going to be fairly new to you, but we'll do a deep dive here. So real quick though, and many of you may have attended other webinars or perhaps one of the Broker Hunter webinars on kind of the state of the industry we do once or twice a year called the Ultimate Playbook. Basically, many of you are recruiting right now, because you have empty desks either enterprise-wide or at a local level. So it's important to fill these seats. The challenge that you have right now, and why many of you that have been recruiting for a long time are maybe not doing anything different or seeing, kind of doing things that have worked before in the past, and you feel like the industry or the recruiting sources have moved on you a little bit. A lot of it's just simply that there's fewer of them. I think you're going to see traditional recruiting methods, many of which, such as job boards, other types of things like that, while they're very, very important, there's only so much you can do with those, and those are typically very active candidate-centric. And what we have going on here in the financial advisory world is essentially, and the same would go in a lot of cases on the insurance world, is you're looking for people that are experienced that already have either licenses or book of business or both. And those aren't active candidates. In most cases, those are almost 100% passive candidates. So techniques that work for other positions within your organization that worked in the past maybe during different markets don't work anymore here, because the candidates that you're trying to engage are candidates that, in a lot of cases are happily employed, or moderately happily employed, I guess. But so they're at all different stages. So it's very, very important that we message to the candidate and really attract and engage those candidates. Here's a listing here of the FINRA licensed reps right now. You can see that that's not a growing number either, for those of you that are looking on the security side. And here's some of the usual suspects, but it does show you here how many FINRA member firms there are at the last time we updated this slide, and then the branch offices there that are all chasing around these same people. So what's changed over the years, and it's accelerating, is really how candidates engage with your brand and your firm. And we call it here, we didn't coin this phrase, this was Google, who we shamelessly repurposed for our own purposes here. But Google has something, and they were about 10 years ago were really doing a research study on this. It's called the 0 moment of truth. And what's happened is buying behavior has changed online, that almost all of the research, or 95% of it, takes place prior to somebody actually engaging with your company physically, either in person or on phone or calling a rep or anything like that. That's the preferred way that people want to engage with a firm or company before they make a buying decision. Same thing happens in recruiting. Is the reason why you get diminishing results from traditional referrals and cold calling and all of this is that most firms, at a branch or a national level, are not effectively out there winning this 0 moment of truth. Now, there's some very basic things you can do to really kind of trap the active candidates. That's where your job boards, your job postings on LinkedIn would be, Broker Hunter, Monster, Career Builder. Those are all really good for getting people that are very, very actively looking. Where a lot of those, where it becomes more challenging, is how do you get candidates and make them aware of your brand, people that maybe aren't necessarily what we would consider an active candidate. They're starting to look around. They're starting to research some options, because they're going to do all of this online. They're typically not going to wait for a recruiter to call, or at least in any scale that's meaningful to you all. So it's very, very important that you come up with unique and creative ways to engage them. Now, certainly every firm out there and employer is unique, and there's going to be certain things that are strengths that we can you want to accentuate. But the bottom line is that you need to do a number of different things to build out this online presence. And then once you've done that, then we have to move beyond that. And this is kind of where we're going right now. So I'm going to message this, that for those of you that maybe you're doing all of the normal recruiting things. Okay, you've got the job postings, you've maximized your Indeed spend, your Career Builder, Monster, Broker Hunter. You've done all of these things, and you're still not getting the lead flow you need. Well, a lot of that's, again, just a function of the current market conditions. There's not nearly as many. So now we have to go kind of the next step here and say, well, what are some creative ways that we can engage somebody and make them interested and aware of you before they're actually ready to make a move or even talk to one of your recruiter, but it's real important for them to start developing a relationship with you and finding out about your brand and your opportunities. This is where events come into play. We do a number of different things for clients and have for over 15 years, but really as of right now and really over the last few years, there is nothing out there that we've seen, and we've tried everything for every client out there, and we have the unique perspective is that we can really kind of see as from an overall market perspective what's really working and what's not, and what's getting and driving the results. And as of at this moment in time, being and participating and having an online event strategy is bar none leaps and bounds better than anything else we've seen right now. And really what we're allowing it to do is we're allowing the metrics to speak. The candidates are telling us the way they want to engage with the employer, and we're just reporting metrics on it, and that's kind of what they're wanting to do. Sometimes it's challenging when you have processes at a macro level. You say, well, we really want candidates to do this. But I think we're at a point now in the recruiting market, it doesn't matter what we all want the candidates to do, it's what they want to do. And if they're telling us this is the way they want to digest the information, then this is what your strategy needs to be, in order to drive adequate numbers and scale. So first thing I'm going to talk about here for time's sake is informational career webinars. And the technology here really has been around for a long time. Many of you, just like we're doing today, it's a wonderful way to have a conversation with a large number of people, have them have an opportunity to get to know you as perhaps a person or an employer or a culture, and it's a great way to engage with people. It's wonderful in the sense that there's a very anonymous aspect to it, and that's real important when you're talking about engaging passive candidates. They're not going to give you all their information. They're not telling you their gross production. They're not telling you information that's going to incriminate them before they're ready. So it's very, very important that we make it seamless and real easy for somebody to come in and listen. And the bottom line is in all good campaigns is these are not leads yet that are ready to give you everything. And so always remember that when you're doing that. We've had webinars before in the past where people say, well, we really want to know their gross production and licenses. We're not at that point yet. You just scare people off. The most important thing initially when you're doing a webinar is you're wanting to brand and make people aware of your opportunity. Here's just some names that we've done some webinars for in the past. The metrics, again, are incredible. Certainly a household brand name like a Fidelity, Charles Schwab, AIG, Thrivent will pull a large number of traffic, but it's certainly something that can be done in a targeted fashion and make people aware of your opportunity. There is the execution of the webinars, the challenge, and where we've seen these events fall down, I guess, or become unsuccessful for clients when they're doing them on their own is a couple things. Number one is practice makes perfect, and it's not necessarily the event like I'm doing now. The work that goes in to pull off an event from a marketing standpoint and all of the various steps that are in order to make a great event, are pretty lengthy. Practice makes perfect too. A lot of times, you have to have done a lot of them a lot of times in order to really drive the results you're looking for. So, that can be a challenge. The other challenge is data sources. Being able to get simply enough people and the right type of people at the event's a challenge. Most firms are very limited in how they can email, how you can advertise if they do it on their own. You really do have to have these opt-in lists. You need people or candidates' Gmail account, email addresses. Most of you probably already have a list with every single email address of everybody in the industry. We've got the same list. That's absolutely worthless. You cannot email to it. for a lot of reasons, but they never get it. You get spam blocked. You'll shut your whole firms down. Server. It's just not possible. So, whether you have one person at a webinar or 500, the amount of work that takes place is the same. So it's very important that when you're doing this to drive scale, ultimately it's all about a cost per hire, cost per qualified lead, and cost. Those are the metrics that most firms want to drive. And again, those deteriorate the less people you have at those. So simple enough. The one con with a webinar that I've seen happen, and here's some metrics here to look at, and this goes back over a couple of years of all the webinars we've done. I think over a dozen. These are the metrics. Couple of cons. One is it's kind of a lot of work to pull off a good webinar. It can be. We've had a lot of clients that say, hey, they're great, we have unbelievable metrics, but trying to coordinate 4 or 5 speakers on a call can be challenging. I think that's probably unnecessary to do. I think 1 or 2 speakers certainly suffice for an informational webinar. As you'll see here, the average time candidates spend on these calls is 51 minutes. That webinar is too long. You really can probably accomplish what you want to accomplish in a very quick, high impactful webinar that maybe takes 20 or 25 minutes. I've never been able to pull one off. I'm sure I'll wind up talking far longer than that, but that's the ideal. They'll talk about the TED Talks that many of you have probably seen. They say the ideal talk there that can inspire and change the world, 17 minutes. So, that's probably a pretty good rule of thumb. But you don't have to make them hard. I think the point is you want to have one is you have an impending event. That's always better. You got something that's happening, it's live, and you're able to tell people about your opportunity, and it can be fairly short. Because again, the way we capture registrant data, this is a process. It's not a, you don't have to sell them on the first call. That's not the point. So that's been around for a while. It's exciting. The metrics are wonderful, but the cons on that, a lot of work. Sometimes you have to coordinate some stuff. As far as different speakers, you got a PowerPoint presentation and all of that. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Ashley to tell you a little bit about how you can leverage the same principles here, the same marketing process, the same scale, but do it in a very easy fashion. And these are a couple of other types of opportunities we have that are event-driven. And Ashley, you want to go ahead and tell a little bit about the open house, and
Sure.
I'll jump back in on the virtual career fair. Go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having me, David, and hey to everyone. Do you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, Dave? Perfect. So I work at Brazen. I don't know if anyone on the call today has heard of Brazen, but we are really an engagement platform. A lot of the engagement that takes place on our platform is between companies and the types of candidates that they want. And the reason why these meetups and online events work so well is because, kind of like what David was talking about, candidates, particularly passive candidates, people that are really just looking for information and not really looking to apply, you need to engage them in a more creative way than a job posting typically. So if we look at Facebook, and I know most of you on the call today are probably saying for anything like Facebook, but we use this example because it's a good example of even a top company with one of the most well-known brands in the world still having a hard time finding the right people. They're in one of the most competitive markets there is in the country for engineering type of talent. So they're kind of a good example of what every company experiences in terms of talent shortages in local areas, hard to fill areas, or in areas where there's really fierce competition. And so if you look at some of the tactics that groups like Facebook are using, this is a picture of a hackathon meetup. So it's really the idea that facilitating conversations, talking more to candidates, getting them all together in a room and actually letting you have a conversation with them is a really great way to attract someone to your brand. you want to click next, Dave. So that's what really we do. I mean, in a way, our platform is almost helping recruiters kind of get back to basics. It's really a conversation platform. So what Dave showed you on the career webinar, your team talking to people kind of in a broadcast style, where that differs from the meetups and the online events is that it's the one-on-one engagement that this platform offers through Broker Hunter. So what Brazen offers is these online chat-based events. You can bring on your team. You don't have to coordinate speakers. It's more anyone in your team who wants to connect, typically recruiters, hiring managers. Sometimes we have clients that bring on employee ambassadors, maybe leadership, other people that are hard to get involved in in-person events just because of travel and risk from the office, can easily sign on online. So it allows you to host these chat-based events that attract top talent because you're inviting them to a conversation. You're going to share more information about what a career is like, answer questions, really just kind of help them, network with them. And we found that that helps our clients convert higher quality candidates at a higher quantity number. And here's an example of an event that Broker Hunter recently facilitated with Fidelity. So in this example, you can kind of see this is a Fidelity career open house. So Broker Hunter promoted the event across a lot of the channels that they engage with their talent pool on. Candidates registered to attend, and on the day of, Fidelity had 3 different areas that they were staffing. They had one for Series 7 licensed candidates, one for college, and 2 other ones. And they had the right people on their side staffing each of those rooms ready to talk with candidates. And particularly, I think in this space with financial advisors, kind of what David alluded to earlier with the being anonymous and wanting to be anonymous until you're really ready to make that jump. It is anonymous for actually coming to this event until I actually have a conversation with you. And then when I do, as a candidate, it's private. So unlike even public events or in-person events where you're kind of outing yourself as being a job seeker or being open to a new opportunity, a lot of candidates that attend these meetups may know each other, but doing it online and keeping the chats private keeps it really intimate and not intimidating. And I know Fidelity had some great results, which I think David has some good stats on.
Yeah, they certainly did. And I will say this, if there was ever a technology created for recruiting financial advisors that we're working, this is it. Because the anonymous nature, you nailed it on the head, Ashley, is many of you, even before, many years ago, we've talked to many clients that have tried to do an actual physical event strategy locally, get people to show up. And what you find, especially as you get down into local markets, is these people are busy. They know everybody in town. They're not showing up to this, period. I mean, you'd have to give away, who knows. It'd be far, even if you could even get them to show up. So, that's the challenge you have, is that, you have to circumvent the confidentiality aspect of this. This certainly does that, and again, the candidates are responding in kind with, this is why we're able to drive such high engagement. And then also, the ability to have multiple channels, multiple opportunities at an event and drive scale is big as well. When you do a physical event, you're limited geographically. This can be used regionally and or nationally very, very easy with really no additional work or cost. So, Ashley, go ahead. Sorry. Do you have anything else to add? Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. No, I mean, the next slide, I think, is that the stats slide that we have? It
is, yeah. And this is the open house engagement. What we're excited about with this is that we had an inkling that the candidates really liked the live events, but until we started doing those, we have a long history of doing webinars. What we're seeing here, though, is that they like this format as well. So this is just, again, another event-driven tool that you can use to engage candidates with tremendous results. And you can see here, for those of you that want to look at the metrics, this was actually from the last events we've done and some historicals, that this is the types of metrics that potentially can be driven through online events. So, certainly this number up top, when you're talking about being able to engage 903 people, that's a tremendous number. In a lot of cases, for many of you, that's a year's worth of candidates, or certainly 6 months. That you may do any number of other things to generate that kind of results, and this can happen literally in a day. The wonderful thing about this is even if a candidate doesn't attend, and right here we're saying you have 44% attendance rate for the candidates, you have the candidate's information that you know that they're interested, and for whatever reason that day they weren't able to make it. So these events have a long tail, and we're going to talk to that in a moment, that you have the event itself, but you also have some marketing material and a list that you can continue to work for some period of time. And I think that's a real important aspect there. So I'll let everybody look at the metrics here, and then we'll jump into the third type of event here. So, and we're both going to talk here, Ashley, that we have the two type of events we had talked about earlier, the webinars and open house or meetup, are single company events. So those are events around a single employer. It's all about you. The next event, which actually attracts a totally different type of candidate in a lot of respects, is a virtual career fair. And many of you may have done those in the past, where you actually attend a career fair. Candidates love it because there's a multitude of different employers. Here's just a listing as of right now of employers that are coming to the October 21st virtual career fair we have coming up here this fall. So what happens is not only are you going to pull in candidates that you normally would have to an event if you did it by yourself, but you're also getting a lot of candidates that may not know who you are, but may be coming in to talk to somebody else, and you're going to have an opportunity to persuade those candidates as well. And that's pretty powerful. It's really powerful if you are a brand or an employer that maybe doesn't have the household recognition of a State Farm or Charles Schwab or some of the others listed here, but you want to be exposed and start building brand awareness, plus obviously get a lot of candidates. This is a perfect platform to participate in, and those are real important. A way for you to, again, far less expensively too. The technology is great, very easy to administer, but it puts you in front of a large group of candidates that, are attending a career event like this for a purpose, and those candidates at a given time are pretty actively engaged and looking for opportunities. And so same technology, little different delivery method, a little different type of candidate. Typically the ones that come to a virtual career fair are very, very active in their searches. So it's certainly something to consider or keep in mind going forward. We always like to say that the virtual career fair is worth attending even if you didn't attend. You want to get the list. That's kind of the key in everything here, is that you actually have the live day, which is important, but the list itself is huge because those are candidates that have raised their hand and said, hey, we're looking around right now, and something that you can do follow-on campaigns and work those for a period of time as well after the event. So what we like to do in this, and this is kind of a marketing thing here real quick, but we talk about using event-driven data to build out lead nurturing campaigns. And I think when you talk lead nurturing, it can be a little intimidating because there's a lot to it. But basically or simply is this, is that you've got people that are starting to engage with you. Now the trick is, and it needs to really be customized, and so it's something we could talk individually about. Now you have to figure out a way to, how do I stay in touch with them periodically to keep them warm, keep engaged with them, keep in front of them, but also give them the opportunity when they're ready to raise their hand. And that's really in a nutshell what lead nurturing is. And that's where events are great, because if you try to do this without getting a lot of data on the front end, it breaks down because there's just not enough candidates or prospects before you really move the dial. The other great thing about events like this, and this is something we talk about called Carving the Content Buffalo, and that's a marketing term. And basically what it allows you to do, and here's an idea, is if you did an online event like a webinar, we actually have used in the past companies that transcribe the actual webinar itself, verbatim. And you can go back in, if you have a subject matter expert on something, and you can actually take that transcript and you can, from that, write blog posts, case studies. You can see all the different things you can do with that knowledge, and you're able to redistribute it in a way where you get a lot of mileage out of it, basically. We've done that before in the past, where you do that, and then you have some blog posts. And I know that when you start talking about creating content from a marketing standpoint, a lot of people get intimidated by that, but a lot of it is simply, just doing it in a way that's efficient and simple. And this is the other kind of the side benefit of doing the events. Obviously, having a ton of candidates show up and engage with you and getting hires is great, but then another benefit is being able to generate a lot of content that you can use on down the road. So pretty exciting stuff here, and you can do that again from all of these different formats. The level of analytics you get from the virtual career fair and the open houses are really neat because, as Ashley, you may have mentioned, we archive and you have reporting on all the chat logs, everything the candidate does to engage with you, so you can focus your efforts on the hottest prospects. So and spend your effort there first, and then you'll have transcripts of the conversation and everything. So you have a lot of really good data when you follow up with candidates that way as well. So what I would like to do is, that's kind of the three big type of events we're seeing, at least online, that in this industry particularly seem to be really moving the dial. Again, the individual events, company events currently, are certainly a wonderful way to, do a single event for yourself and generate a lot of response, or actually just simply participating in a virtual career fair where there's a lot of different employers there and you have an opportunity to showcase your opportunity to a lot of candidates is a great way as well. We try to do 2 virtual career fairs a year. I think any more than that, then we're kind of getting the recycling the same candidates. Any less than that, though, as candidate pools turn over, we could probably do one more frequently, but it seems like every 6 months you get brand new candidates in, and it's like a brand new event. So that's kind of the pace that we're keeping right now on that. As far as national events go, and these available event days are national events right here, we are very sensitive to not over-marketing to our internal database of candidates. We've got close to 160,000 newsletter subscribers, I think close to 100,000 candidates within our LinkedIn groups, and we are very cognizant of not, over-marketing to them. We're able to build this and maintain the relationship with these candidates because we bring them timely events and we don't overdo it. So we try to keep the big national events spaced out at least 3 or 4 weeks apart. So this is the availability for the remainder of the year. And there's 4 slots left for a webinar and or an open house for a company to do. I'm going to touch on this a little bit. When somebody does a webinar through us, we do a turnkey service where we do all of the pre and post event marketing and everything to drive maximum attendance. So that's as well as hosting and the technology and everything. Should you want to do a webinar on your own, you certainly can do that. You'll want to, and I can talk with you individually on this, particularly if you're looking local or regionally. There's ways to do it a little less expensively than doing it nationally on your own, but you still have to get enough people there, and that's where we want to talk to you individually on a local strategy if you wanted to do that. The virtual career fair is certainly something I think that anybody on the call that's never participated in, if you are recruiting in your regional or national in scope, I don't know of anything else that you can do at that price point that would get you exposure to that many candidates at once. And we will be sending out an email with a special promotion code for you all to participate should you want to participate in the October 21st event. So keep an eye out for that. And those are really a neat platform. There's certainly a lot of candidates there. Also, I'd like to open this up to some Q&A. I've been talking the whole time here, and let's see if we can generate some questions here from the audience members, and kind of go from there, and then we'll jump back in here as needed if anybody wants to talk specific dates. So first question here is virtual career fair participation. How much does it cost, and what are the dates, or what's the date again? So virtual career fair is on October the 21st. We host these events for 4 hours, I believe is the time frame. I'd have to check it's 4 or 5 hours. They start at 1 o'clock to 5 or 6 Eastern time. You'll want to staff recruiters on hand for that. We do get a ton of candidates that come through the venue. I think we're averaging over 2,000 candidates, even in off times. So I would expect at least that many for the next event. The price for the virtual career fair, the rate card price for this is $4,995 for a standard level sponsorship, and then we have a platinum level sponsorship as well. That's $6,995 for the event. We are offering a couple of discounts. One is we have an early bird discount since the event's far off of 25% to participate, and then each of you will receive an email after the call today with an additional promotion code for webinar attendees to get an additional 10% off of that. So we've tried to make the cost really a non-issue there, and I think if you participate in the early bird discount that you'll be very happy you did. The event is, and I want to talk with you individually if you have questions as to which level. We only have 6 platinum sponsors, and we already have 4 attending, so there's 2 more of those left. And then standard sponsorships, there's no limit. So the bigger the event, the better. Honestly, the more employers we have, the more candidates come, and it's just good for everybody else. So certainly something to take a look at. You will want to make sure you adequately staff this with recruiters. We have seen in the past where you don't think you're going to get a lot of candidates or a lot of conversations, and you understaff it and you're overwhelmed for 5 hours. Conversely, you don't need 10 recruiters there. I think a lot of you can get away with a couple people on deck the whole time. But again, you are talking about a lot of candidates coming through the venue. So certainly exciting there. Next question is, what webinar platform do we utilize? This is a good question. This may be a tip for you guys just to think about as you are maybe doing your own webinars. We've used probably every major vendor of webinar platforms, and they all have their pros and cons, but for the technology behind them, we like to use a company called ReadyTalk to do our platform. One of the reasons is you'll notice here that we don't have any pop-ups or anything. You don't have to be scared of that. And that's the biggest fear when I do a webinar if you use some of the other platform providers, is that it's very hard, because you're sharing your screen, if anything pops up or does anything weird, everybody sees it. This platform here is a captive platform, meaning I load up a PowerPoint presentation and slides. I can go online and actually show a live website should I choose to do it, but it contains everything within here. So it makes for a better user experience typically, and that's important when you're doing these, particularly if you're going to start doing these with some frequency. At the local level, though, for those of you on here that maybe just recruiting, let's say in Metro Atlanta or something like that, you could probably get away with a GoToMeeting, or we have that one as well. We don't use it very much, but GoToMeeting we use on smaller calls up to about 25 or 30 people. They're fine. We will have events oftentimes both internally and for clients that may have upwards of 400 or 500 live participants on it. When you get to that volume, you want to have a pretty robust program. There's another one called On24 that's a very good platform. We don't personally use that right now, but I've heard a lot of good things about that, and it gives you some capabilities. This technology in utilizing this is only going to continue to increase. These aren't going away. Live engagement with candidates, I feel like really this is kind of where it's going. We're ultimately trying to drive people to engage with you and start to learn about you as a brand and develop a relationship with you so that you can finally talk to them. And I think that's the challenge. This industry typically will lag others as far as, there's still an era of, well, we'll just cold call, or we're going to just prospect directly, and what that ignores is that ignores what a candidate wants. It's really all about them. They're going to tell us via the metrics and what's working what they want to do. That's the bottom line. So that is why it's important that you do try a number of things in your recruiting, obviously keeping cost effectiveness in mind, and then when you get on something that really seems to move the dial for you individually, you keep doing that and stop doing things that perhaps aren't working as well. So, but if you want to do a local webinar strategy, I think the biggest challenge you would have if you did not have a marketing background or you didn't do these is probably just making the common mistakes, and there's a lot of them, of just how to pull off these events, and then also the list. I think you've got to have enough people attend these to make it worthwhile, honestly. It doesn't do anybody any good if two people show up, and well, if they're the right two people, you hire them both, I guess it does. But using the law of large numbers, that's usually where it breaks down. But at a local level, I've always loved the idea of, let's say, a local branch manager or maybe a complex manager just periodically doing a meet and greet. Let me just let you come in anonymously. Let me just tell you about our culture and our deal, about our office. All of that works. It's there's a consistency aspect there that you're going to have to be conscious of, and you want to make sure you do it with some frequency, but that strategy in of itself is huge because ultimately, it's about a relationship at the local level. At the enterprise level, many of you that are sitting there and have to hire more than 100 or 200 or 300, it's sheerly just about scale at that point and being able to get your message out there, in a timely fashion. I don't advocate doing this in place of some of the other more basic things. I think this is a supplement. I think in the market that we're in right now, it's very important that you probably do a number of things, honestly. And each individual company will have a little bit different mix of things that work or don't work for you, and we've seen that across the board. We have people that banner advertise, and that works best, and that drives most of the hires. We have email marketing or events or this or job posting. It's what it usually boils down to is there's no magic bullet. It's a combination of all of those and some consistency there. So that is a great question. I appreciate that. Let's see any other ideas you have. Ashley, I think what we're getting to here is when you start getting into events and some things like this, and you're plugging them into your recruitment program, you're starting to get into a little, well, you're not starting to, you are getting into campaign building at that point. So it really requires, some ideas and a partner that understands how to do this, and this is where my shameless self-promotion comes in, but we're going to keep it nice and easy. We would love to help you. I think that's what we'd like to say. We're here as a resource for you to give you ideas. We've done a lot of this for a lot of years. We're fairly creative, and we know really creative people that help us. So we're pretty good at this, and I think the numbers speak for themselves. So should you even want to do it on your own or utilize us, we're here as a resource. I mean, obviously, one day we'd love to work with you, but I don't want you to ever hesitate to call to be afraid that we're going to try to sell you something, because that's not how we like to do things here. So with that being said, I am going to go ahead and end this call. You all will get an email. You'll have a couple things here. You will have in that email a promotion code should you want to participate in the virtual career fair. What you'll do is you'll have the code. You're going to go through the checkout there. The 25% discount's automatically calculated. you'll enter in the promo, it'll do an additional 10%. You can actually do that online. As a matter of fact, we actually prefer that if you don't have any questions, because we're going to have to make you go through that process anyway. That's what sets up your account. And then we have a whole team here that will help you set up the booth and everything. It's so easy to do. Once you've done it once, it's built. We can roll it to the next event should you want to participate again. It's really all very, very cool and seamless. And the team at Brazen is really unbelievable. They make us look really smart, which is, Ashley, don't laugh. It's hard to do, we know. So, but yeah, there you go. Nice laugh. So anyhow, so they're wonderful, and they do an excellent job there. We also have a link on the email I'm going to send of just simply, hey, we'd love to chat with you. So if you have any questions or you want to talk about the open house events or webinars or anything, how we might be able to help you out, again, just click that, and either myself or one of my colleagues will follow up with you as well, and we can certainly chat about that. But with that being said, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful rest of the summer. It's about 95 degrees and hot here in Atlanta. I know Ashley said DC is pretty hot today, so I think we're kind of getting into the heart of summer here, at least as far as the weather goes. And I know this is an off time. It can be for recruiting, but it doesn't have to be. The candidates are still out there. If somebody's still starting to look, they're looking. So, now's not the time necessarily to take the foot off the gas. And you certainly, what you're doing now is setting yourself up, for a strong finish to 2015. So. Anyhow, keep an eye out for the email. I'm going to let everybody go now, and I thank everybody for their time today and for taking out almost an hour of your time out of your busy schedules. So keep an eye out for the email, and we look forward to talking with you really soon. Thanks so much. Goodbye.
Thanks, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, that does conclude the webinar call for today. We thank you for your participation and ask that you please disconnect your lines.